where the crew works quietly behind the scenes, making sure everything is running smoothly. No flashing lights, no standing ovations, just the steady rhythm of movement, keeping the whole thing on track, running smooth. There's an old saying in theater: great performances are made in the moments the audience doesn't see. And I'd argue that's true for travel too. These stretches might not get the applause, but without them, the journey wouldn't happen. So while the world gets ready for the next big scene, enjoy this moment behind the curtain. No distractions, no rush, just the effortless magic of getting from one act to the next. All right, that wraps up my part for now. Now back to Junior.
Thanks, Dad. You're heading over Wilson Place in Kimball County, a name likely unfamiliar even to seasoned Texans. It's an unincorporated spot tucked deep within the rolling landscapes of the Edwards Plateau, where the land ripples with limestone hills, scattered live oaks, and hidden valleys, a setting that typifies the quieter side of the Texas Hill Country. The elevation hovers around 1,800 feet, giving the area a remarkable clarity of air and impressively broad skies, especially at sunrise. Kimball County itself is called the Land of Living Waters, thanks to its pristine springs and the winding Llano and James rivers, which are popular for fishing and paddling in the warmer months. Ranching dominates the local economy, with multi-generational families raising cattle, sheep, and goats on rugged, rocky pastures, a tradition stretching back to the 1800s when hardy settlers claimed their stake in the wilds. Dining in Wilson Place means heartier fare. visitors might encounter old-school chuckwagon cooking on ranch get-togethers, with everything from fresh biscuits to slow-cooked stews simmered over mesquite. Residents gather supplies in nearby Junction, the county seat, famous for its Friday night lights and a vibrant, close-knit community spirit. Weather in these parts runs warm and dry in the summer, often topping 90 degrees, while winters bring cool mornings that rarely freeze. Perfect for spotting wildlife in the golden light or a night spent stargazing, far from city glare. One quirky childhood custom you'll hear from locals is swimming the stock tank, a DIY method of keeping cool that's a rite of passage here, a reminder the best pools aren't always found in fancy resorts. If you're the wandering type, Wilson Place makes a quiet launch point for hikes in the hill country, fossil hunting along dry creek beds, or chasing local legends about lost Spanish gold. Dreamy, understated, yet stubbornly authentic, that sums up life in this little slice of Central Texas. Late morning in Sonora, the humidity sits just above 60% and gentle winds carry the scent of the Edwards Plateau's pastures through town. A familiar climate for this area, which often enjoys mild, cloud-dappled days through much of the year before evening rains drift in. Sonora holds a story shaped by resourcefulness. Its origins go back to the late 1800s, chosen by founder Charles Adams, who gambled on locating the county seat here despite uncertain water supplies. When a well was finally struck on the courthouse grounds, Sonora surged ahead, luring settlers and businesses that outlasted its competition, Wentworth, which faded entirely by the turn of the century. The late 19th century was an era of stockman's paradise, so named for the thriving cattle and sheep ranches. Remnants of this ranching heritage are still visible in the open land surrounding town. Today, Sonora stands out for its distinctive Sutton County Courthouse. Built in 1893 by renowned architect Oscar Ruffini, it boasts Second Empire architecture, a rarity in Texas, with mansard roofing and ornate ironwork. Restoration uncovered gold stenciling, Victorian motifs, and preserved original pine floors, making the courthouse a centerpiece of downtown's historic ambiance. Across the square, the old native stone jail is now a museum filled with local lore, and the Mears Home Museum tells stories of early settlement. Though ranching remains important economically, the town saw an oil boom in the 1970s that briefly doubled its population and transformed public services, but ultimately ebbed, returning Sonora to its quieter roots. Curious travelers enjoy self-guided or led tours through downtown's heritage sites. Some even discover the original courthouse well, now capped for prosperity. A surprising tidbit: several historic buildings survive because local custom once permitted the courthouse to host public meetings and celebrations, not just legal business, a reflection of Sonora's enduring communal spirit. You're going to land in a place that really rewards curiosity. Ozona, the county seat of Crockett County, sits out here in West Texas with a nickname that'll stick with you: the biggest little town in the world. It's the only incorporated city in the entire county, and there's something honest about that claim. The town was born in 1891, though the land itself holds a much deeper story. Native Americans walked this country for thousands of years, and by the mid-1700s, the San Antonio to California Trail ran right through here. The U.S. Army planted Fort Lancaster to protect settlers and travelers making that grueling journey. You can still visit the fort's ruins today, 82 acres managed by the Texas Historical Commission, originally preserved by local families who understood the value of remembering. What really defines Ozona, though, is the courthouse sitting dead center of the town square. Built in 1902 from limestone quarried locally, it's a Second Empire beauty designed by Oscar Ruffini, a prolific Texas architect who left his mark across the state. The thing's a genuine gathering place. Beyond its government function, it hosted cowboy dances, roundup celebrations, even Christmas gatherings. In 1909, they added an arc light to the steeple to signal the sheriff and guide travelers in at night. Practical, clever architecture with character. Around that square you'll find the Davy Crockett statue, a 20-ton granite monument placed in 1938, inscribed with his motto, "Be sure you are right, then go ahead." The county itself was named for him. Just steps away sits The Tie That Binds, a bronze sculpture by local artist Judy Black capturing the determination of pioneers who pushed westward and settled here. The Crockett County Museum across town is worth your time. 3 floors tracing everything from Paleo-Indians and mammoth bones to cowboy artifacts and early settlement life. It's the kind of small-town museum that doesn't pretend to be something grander, it just does its job well. Outdoor types will appreciate the sprawling ranchland surrounding the town, nearly 2 million acres for hunting, off-roading, And if you're willing to venture out, the Twistflower Ranch offers stargazing under genuinely dark skies and archaeological tours through Native American sites stretching back millennia. This part of the world isn't asking for attention, but Jolly Sr. sure knows how to make the most of it. Go ahead, Dad.
I got it, Junior. Hi there, Jolly Senior here. Glad to be part of this. Some parts of a trip are about arrival. Some are about discovery. And then there are moments like this, the quiet stretches, the ones that don't demand your attention but still shape the experience. Someone once said, travel isn't just about reaching a place, but about everything that happens along the way. And there's truth to that. Every part of a journey plays its role. Some moments are full of excitement, while others, like this one, simply keep things moving as they should. These in-between stretches, the ones without fanfare, are often where the best thinking happens. Maybe it's because for once there's nothing to do but just be. No schedules to check, no decisions to make. Just steady movement, the world passing by, and a rare chance to let your mind wander. Funny how in a world that moves so fast, moments like this feel like a hidden luxury. No rush, no expectations, just smooth, uninterrupted motion, exactly as it's meant to be. We're passing through one of those spaces that doesn't ask for attention. It simply keeps everything in motion. Whether we're over the ocean, open landscapes, or high above the world, these stretches are what make travel feel effortless. Think about people like Charles Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic in a single flight, or the first railroads carving paths across continents. All of them relied on these quiet, steady stretches that don't make headlines but make everything possible. Not every part of a trip is about where you're going. Sometimes it's just about the experience of being in motion. The hum of the engine, the rhythm of the road, the feeling of time passing just right. So, wherever you're headed, this moment is part of the journey, smooth, steady, and exactly as it should be. Just sit back, take it in, and enjoy the ride. Well, this is interesting. We're passing through a place without a name on hand. Not lost, not off course, just moving through one of those stretches that doesn't ask for attention. Think of this as a little breather in the journey. No landmarks fighting for your time, no major moments to process, just a quiet pause before the next thing. Every trip has them. The in-between moments where nothing much happens, but somehow they still feel like part of the experience. It reminds me of something a writer once said. Sometimes it's not the road that changes you, but the time spent traveling it. Maybe that's why these quiet stretches are worth noticing. No rush, no distractions, just time moving forward, exactly as it should. So, take this moment for what it is, a rare chance to sit back, do nothing, and just let the journey unfold. No interruptions, no decisions to make, just a little break, built right into the trip. You know, some places in the world are known for their history, some for their beauty, and some are just here to keep everything running smoothly. Right now, you're passing through one of those spots, the kind of place that doesn't need to make a fuss because it knows exactly what it's doing. If there were an award for best place to let your mind wander, this stretch of the world would be a top contender. No distractions, no rushing around, just the perfect excuse to pause for a moment and daydream. That's what I love about these quiet stretches of a journey. They give you space to think, to relax, or just to enjoy the view, even if the view is a lot of water, sky, or land. It reminds me of something Wilbur Wright once said when talking about flying. No bird soars in a calm, but I'd argue that sometimes a calm stretch is exactly what you need. No need to be anywhere else. No need to do anything, just enjoy the smooth rhythm of travel. So whether you're deep in thought or just taking in the moment, this is one of those rare chances where you don't have to do anything at all. And in a world that's always moving fast, that's a pretty nice thing to have. All right, that wraps up my part for now. Now back to Junior.
Thanks, Dad. Verhallen is one of those quiet corners of West Texas where the wind carries stories of railroads and forgotten dreams. Nestled about 22 miles south of Pecos, this ghost town was once called Verhallen Switch, named after Ray P. Verhallen, a pioneering farmer who helped coax life from the arid soil of Reeves County. The town's heartbeat was the Pecos Valley Southern Railroad, which brought settlers and hope to this stretch of the Trans-Pecos in the early 1900s. Life here was shaped by the rhythms of farming and rail. The promise of fertile land drew families, but the harsh climate and shifting fortunes of the region eventually led many to move on. Today, only scattered foundations and a few weathered structures remain, standing as silent witnesses to a time when Verhallen buzzed with the energy of a frontier community. The surrounding area is classic West Texas: wide open skies, rugged desert landscapes, and a climate that swings from scorching summers to chilly winters. Locals know the value of water here, and the legacy of irrigation from springs like San Solomon still echoes in the region's history. Nearby, Balmorhea State Park draws visitors with its massive spring-fed pool, a rare oasis in the desert. The ghost towns of Reeves County, including Verhallen, are often explored by those curious about the region's past, and old maps reveal how the town once connected to a network of rail lines in rural communities. One lesser-known detail: the name Verhallen is a reminder of the Dutch roots of some early settlers, a small but distinct thread in the tapestry of West Texas history. Looks like we're in one of those quiet spots, which makes it the perfect time for Jolly Sr. to keep us company. Take it away, Dad.
Okay, got it. Hello there, Jolly Sr. here, keeping things going. You ever notice how some places love to take credit? Big cities, famous landmarks, even tiny roadside diners with world's best coffee signs. But then there are places like this, the quiet, hard-working parts of the world that don't need a spotlight to do their job. This is the kind of place that keeps everything moving without asking for attention. It doesn't make postcards, but without it, the journey wouldn't work. And let's be honest, Sometimes these stretches are the best part. No schedules to check, no decisions to make, just a moment to sit back and let things happen exactly as they should. I always think about how travel has evolved, how people once spent weeks, even months, crossing distances that now take hours. And yet, no matter how much changes, every trip still has stretches like this. The quiet in-between moments, the ones that make the whole journey possible. So, here's to the unsung heroes of travel, the places that don't try to impress you, but still get the job done. No need to rush, no need to overthink, just keep moving and everything else will fall into place. If this part of the journey had customer reviews, I imagine they'd go something like this. First review. Got me where I needed to go. No complaints. Second review. Solid experience. Lacked major landmarks but made up for it with reliability. And my favorite. Third review. Not much happening, but I guess that's the point. Not every stretch of travel is designed to impress. Some places are just here to do their job, get you from one place to another, no extra frills included. And honestly, that's kind of nice. No crowds, no distractions, no decisions to make, just smooth, uninterrupted progress. It reminds me of an old joke. How do you know you're on a great trip when the most exciting part is yet to come? So take this as a rare moment to just sit back and enjoy the simplicity. No surprises, no detours, just a perfectly reliable stretch of the journey. Looks like we're passing through a place without a name on hand. No big introductions, no famous landmarks, just a stretch of the journey quietly doing its job. Some places are known for their history, others for their sights. And then there are places like this, the ones that don't ask for attention but still play a role in keeping everything connected. The unsung spaces that make travel possible, even if no one stops to admire them. There's an old saying, everywhere is somewhere to someone. Just because we don't have a name for this spot doesn't mean it's not important. Every journey has stretches like this, the moments in between that keep the whole thing running smoothly. So whether we know what to call it or not, this place is doing exactly what it was meant to do, letting us move forward, uninterrupted. No distractions, no detours, just another piece of the journey unfolding as it should. Now this is a part of the journey that countless travelers before you have experienced. Business or leisure, long haul or short trip, every traveler at some point passes through a stretch just like this. Open, unmarked, existing purely to keep the journey moving. You think Marco Polo had a guidebook when he set off on his travels? Or that Charles Lindbergh always had something to look at while crossing the Atlantic? Travelers throughout history have moved through spaces like this, moments where the world simply lets them pass, uninterrupted. There's an old saying, great journeys aren't made just by the places you visit, but by the paths that connect them. And that's exactly where you are now, one of those paths doing its job without asking for attention. So, take a moment to appreciate this familiar rhythm of travel, the same kind of stretch that millions before you have passed through. No distractions, no crowds, just steady movement exactly as it's meant to be.
It's
All right, I've done my bit. Time to hand things back to Junior for the next update.
Thank
All right,
you, Dad.
I've done my bit.
Desert
Time to
Haven
hand
is one
things
of
back
those
to
quiet,
Junior for the next
sun-baked
update.
spots in the far
All right,
U.S.
I've done my bit.
Desert
Time to
Haven
hand
is where
things
the
back to
Chihuahua
Junior
Desert
for the next
sun-baked
update.
spots in the far
All right,
U.S.
I've done my bit.
Desert
Time to
Haven
hand
is
things
one of
back
those
to
quiet,
Junior for the next
sun-baked
update.
spots in the far
All right,
U.S.
I've done my bit. Time to hand things back to Junior for the next
All
right, I've done my bit. Time to hand things back to Junior for the next update. All right, I've done my bit. 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 All right, I've done my bit.
Trail, you'll find garden courtyards, unique religious art, and communities maintaining Tigwa traditions, like bread baking with recipes handed down since the 1700s, which you can still sample at the Tigwa Indian Cultural Center on weekends. El Paso's culinary scene is as blended as its heritage. Expect classic Tex-Mex as well as legendary border treats, burgers with green chili, and sweet and spicy Mexican candies. The city hums with energy from Fort Bliss, one of the largest military complexes in the country. If you're after something unexpected, Hueco Tank's State Historic Site just east of the city is a wonder, famous for ancient rock art dating back 8,000 years and as a world-class site for bouldering enthusiasts. Downtown, Concordia Cemetery is the resting place of gunfighters and outlaws, while the El Paso Museum of History features an interactive digital wall that brings local stories to life. One quirky local custom: some old-timers say it's good luck to toss a coin into the San Jacinto Plaza's alligator fountain, a nod to when live alligators actually called it home. In every sense, El Paso is a borderland between nations, eras, and cultures, all set against broad blue skies and striking desert mountains. Nothing popping up on my end, which means it's the perfect time for Jolly Sr. to step in and keep us company. Over to you, Dad.
All right, my turn. Hi there, Jolly Senior here. Always good to have company. Every great trip has a rhythm to it. The rush of getting ready, the excitement of setting off, and then this part, the steady, quiet beat that keeps everything moving. If this journey had a soundtrack, this would be the smooth instrumental track in the middle. The part where the music just flows, no big crescendos, no dramatic drops, just effortless motion. It reminds me of something a musician once said. It's not the notes that make the music, it's the space between them. And travel is kind of the same way. These in-between moments aren't just filler, they're what make the whole thing work. So whether you're staring out the window lost in thought or just letting time pass, this is your song right now. No lyrics needed, just the hum of the journey playing exactly as it should. Some places are meant to be noticed. Others? They work quietly in the background, making sure everything flows just as it should. Right now, you're passing through one of those places. No big introductions, no landmarks vying for attention. Just an open stretch doing exactly what it was meant to do. Not every part of the journey needs a story. Some places exist purely to connect everything else, to make travel feel smooth, uninterrupted, and effortless. They don't ask for recognition, but without them, getting from one place to another wouldn't feel nearly as natural. There's an old saying, sometimes the best part of the journey is simply moving forward. And that's exactly what's happening right now. A steady, seamless moment. Just travel at its simplest, doing what it does best. All right, that wraps up my part for now. Now back to Junior.
Thanks, Dad. Just about noon in Sunshine, Luna County. It's a mild 63 degrees, a little overcast with a hint of breeze. The kind of day you'd expect in this pocket of southwestern New Mexico that straddles the line between desert and cultivated farmland. Sunshine itself is a small, census-designated community, home to around 800 people these days, quietly growing with a spirit you'll find in rural towns where most neighbors can still be called by name. What really defines Sunshine and its surroundings is the mix of vast public lands and fertile fields. Luna County is famous locally for its productive farms. Chilies, sweet onions, melons, cotton, and even pecans and grapes are common sights, and those grapes have helped spur a handful of celebrated New Mexico wineries near Deming, just up the road. The farming legacy runs deep. Families here have cultivated the rich soils of the Mimbres Valley for generations. You won't find the traditional tourist trappings here, but the area is steeped in dramatic history. Luna County was once Apache territory, with stories of figures like Geronimo and Cochise. The Butterfield Trail and Mormon Battalion both marched through these plains, and the infamous Pancho Villa raid occurred just south in Columbus in 1916, the only attack on the U.S. mainland by a foreign force. With much of Luna County's land protected, Sunshine enjoys open skies and occasional mountain views, Cook's Peak to the north being the highest in the area, reaching over 8,400 feet. Weather tends to be dry, with sunshine as a dependable companion nearly every week of the year, though days like today bring a welcome break from the relentless New Mexican rays. There's a hollowed-out quiet to Sunshine, but it's one worth experiencing if you ever want to see the intersection of old borderland legends and new agricultural innovation. You might even hear about a local custom. Kids growing up here know to keep an eye out for wandering cattle or a rare dust devil twisting across the fields. You know, Sapar is one of those places that really captures the essence of the old mining frontier in southwest New Mexico. It's small, just a handful of residents today, but its story is absolutely woven into the region's copper mining heritage. Back in the day, Sapar was far more significant than it appears now. It served as a critical stop along the Llanos Trail, a route that moved copper ore south into Chihuahua, Mexico, for processing. Imagine the activity then. Mules laden with ore, traders passing through, the whole machinery of commerce keeping the territory connected and profitable. That trade corridor was lifelines for the entire region during the mining booms of the 19th and early 20th centuries. The broader Grant County context matters here too. This is the state's westernmost county, and it's absolutely steeped in mining history, some of the earliest in New Mexico, actually. The Santa Rita del Cobre copper deposits were legendary. Silver City, the county seat since 1874, became the commercial and administrative heart of all this activity, but places like Sapar were the unglamorous infrastructure that made it all work. Without the logistics nodes and transport routes, the ore would never have reached the smelters. What's striking about Sapar today is the quiet. The mines have largely closed or consolidated, the Llanos Trail is no longer a commercial artery, and the settlement has shrunk dramatically. Yet if you visit, you're standing in a place where genuine historical infrastructure once hummed with purpose. The landscape itself, those high desert valleys and mountain passes, hasn't changed much since those ore wagons rolled through. It's a humbling reminder of how economic life reshapes itself. Sapar went from essential outpost to historical footnote within a century. But that's precisely what makes it compelling for travelers who want to understand how the American West actually developed, beyond the silver rush glamour of places like Silver City. It's where the real work happened. This afternoon near Wheeler Place, the clouds have settled in and the temperature lingers in the low 60s, quintessential high desert weather, perfect for exploring the quieter corners of southeastern Arizona. Sitting at about 4,100 feet above sea level in Cochise County, Wheeler Place isn't your typical stop. It's more of an isolated dwelling nestled among landscape that's rugged, sun-baked, and full of history. What makes Wheeler Place intriguing isn't a bustling downtown or famous chef. It's the palpable sense of frontier legacy. This area, near the enigmatic Doubtful Canyon, once formed part of the route favored by early Apache war parties and pioneers bound for the Pacific. Stories echo through the canyons about stagecoach robberies and lost gold, if you're one for legends. Nearby, the small locality of Vonner sits just under 2 miles southwest, with Bowie farther west, a town once pivotal for the Southern Pacific Railroad and which continues to tip its hat to old-time ranching traditions. Throughout the wider region, cattle ranches and family-owned pecan farms dot the landscape, with real estate tending towards sprawling plots, windmills, and an open sky that outdoes any city skyline. For outdoor enthusiasts, fishing spots around Wheeler Place lure anglers with the promise of desert bass and catfish. Birdwatchers flock to this corner each spring. Cochise County's migration corridor brings flashes of color, warblers, tanagers, and the occasional rare vireo. If you're hungry, the most authentic Cochise County treat is a green chili burrito, simple, spicy, and as local as you'll find. And here's a trivia nugget. Wheeler Place appears on maps but not as a formal town. It's a populated place, a term for settlements that might consist of just a handful of homes and perhaps, occasionally, a ghost story or two. With the midday sun muted by overcast clouds and a cool breeze sweeping across the arid high desert, Bowie sits quietly in southeastern Arizona, imbued with a turbulent and captivating history. You wouldn't expect such a peaceful little spot, home to under 500 residents today, to have stood at the heart of decades-long conflict between settlers and the Chiricahua Apache. Yet Bowie owes its very name and existence to nearby Fort Bowie, built in the 1860s as the primary military post during the Apache Wars, where Cochise and, later, Geronimo led fierce resistance against encroachment on their homeland. The town itself sprang up in 1880, energized by the arrival of the Southern Pacific Railroad and the vision of frontiersman James Tevis. Back then, Bowie was bustling as a stopover for the Butterfield stage line, and you can still catch a sense of its frontier spirit when walking through the old rail district, the remnants of two eras, indigenous and pioneer, converging on the land itself. Today, Fort Bowie National Historic Site draws hikers and history buffs alike. Instead of driving up to a main gate, you walk a scenic trail lined with interpretive signs through semi-arid grassland. Along the way, you'll encounter ruins of the fort, the outline of Apache Spring, and, if timing's right, bursts of desert wildflowers. Bowie's landscape is typified by cool, dry winters and hot, sunny summers, with overcast days and swift winds such as these being less common. There are no glitzy eateries here, but locals swear by chili-laden stews and homemade pies at roadside cafes. For those curious about odd local trivia, the Wilcox Dry Lake just west of town, although it looks barren, is a magnet for rare shorebirds every spring, drawing birdwatchers from across the Southwest. Bowie is where the Old West feels tangibly close, and a quiet afternoon among the ruins can still startle with echoes of Apaches and cavalry, sharing a story far larger than the tiny town itself. Nothing popping up on my end, which means it's the perfect time for Jolly Senior to step in and keep us company. Over to you, Dad.
All right, my turn. Hi there, Jolly Senior here. Always good to have company. There's something oddly satisfying about a part of the journey that doesn't ask anything of you. No big decisions, no need to check directions, just steady movement, letting time do its thing. You won't see this place in a travel guide, and no one's writing a bucket list around it. But that's what makes it great. Some moments aren't about where you are, but about the simple fact that you're going somewhere. And let's be honest, those moments can be just as important as the exciting ones. I always think about how much effort went into making travel this effortless. Centuries ago, moving from one place to another took careful planning, patience, and usually a few broken wagon wheels. Now, you just keep going, and before you know it, you're somewhere new. So while this spot may not come with a history lesson or a famous name, it's still playing its part. No delays, no detours, just forward motion, exactly the way it was meant to be. All right, that wraps up my part for now. Now back to Junior.
Thanks, Dad. Mammoth, tucked into Pinal County northeast of Tucson, is a place shaped by mining booms and desert resilience. Its history kicks off in the late 19th century when prospectors zeroed in on rich gold and copper veins, giving rise to the Mammoth Mine, which once fueled a lively town centered on the rugged rhythms of the Old West. Remnants of that era linger in local landmarks and the street grid that old maps show evolving over more than 100 years. Mining isn't Mammoth's only claim to fame. Nearby, Oracle State Park offers rolling grasslands and shaded oak woodlands, once part of a family ranch from the early 1900s, now preserved as a haven for hikers and birdwatchers. The area draws adventurers with attractions like Arizona Zipline Adventures and the popular Tiger Mine Trailhead, which tempts locals and visitors to explore sweeping desert vistas. While the Mammoth Town Hall may not sound thrilling, it remains a focal point for this small community, acting as a sort of heartbeat where locals gather and civic life carries on. The weather here follows classic Sonoran desert patterns: hot, dry summers and surprisingly cool winters owing to nearby mountain elevations, making spring and autumn especially pleasant for exploring the trails or stopping in at roadside diners where you might find rich, hearty southwestern dishes and perhaps a green chili stew after a long day outside. One quirky bit of local trivia: despite its modest footprint today, Mammoth was once lively enough to warrant a stint as a stop for stagecoaches headed to bustling Tucson. And with Biosphere 2, famed for its ambitious Earth in a Bottle experiments a short drive away, there's certainly no shortage of curiosity to satisfy. All told, Mammoth is where Arizona's copper and gold past meets wide open sky, a place to breathe deep and take the desert's timelessness one step at a time. Right now, Cactus Forest is enjoying mild midday temperatures around 69 degrees Fahrenheit, with a steady breeze and an overcast sky. Quite comfortable compared to the scorching deserts most folks imagine when they think of Arizona. Cactus Forest is a small, tight-knit community nestled in Pinal County, about an hour southeast of Phoenix. Despite its modest size, the area embodies that classic Sonoran desert scenery, where the landscape unfurls in wide, open stretches dotted with majestic saguaro cacti. These towering sentinels aren't just photogenic, they play a vital role in desert ecology, serving as nesting sites for hawks and home to a surprising number of bats and owls each spring and summer. While there's no single landmark that puts Cactus Forest on the tourist map, its character is shaped by its proximity to some of Arizona's natural treasures. Picacho Peak, for example, looms nearby and is famous for its wildflower blooms in spring, fields awash in orange and yellow after the winter rains. The nearby Santa Cruz Flats have a history stretching back to early mail routes in the 1800s, when long distance traveled at the pace of a horse-drawn coach. Most locals here have roots in ranching or small-scale farming, making the pace of life more about sunrises and monsoon rains than hustle and bustle. Building styles lean towards practical, classic Arizona. Think low, flat roofs designed to withstand desert heat and sudden summer storms. One fun bit of trivia: while the name might suggest a dense thicket, the forest here is more a gathering of hardy desert plants, where saguaros sometimes rise 20 or 30 feet from bare ground. There's a certain dry humor in Arizonans calling any patch of green a forest, but after one summer here, you'd appreciate how precious a bit of shade can be. The weather, the cactus-studded scenery, and a strong sense of rural tradition make Cactus Forest an authentic slice of Arizona's story. Upper Sandton Village is tucked into the heart of Pinal County with a population hovering just under 500, giving it the feel of a tight-knit rural community where everyone seems to know your name. Though it's small, its location places it amid Arizona's broader tapestry of growth and transformation, especially as new residents spill into the Santan area from the ever-sprawling Phoenix suburbs. The land around here has deep roots. Archaeologists and local history buffs value the region for its ancient ties to Native American cultures, with petroglyphs and historic sites a stone's throw away in the Santan Mountains. The nearby Santan Historical Museum in Queen Creek keeps these stories alive, often with hands-on exhibitions about traditional crafts and the agricultural methods that let people thrive here long before air conditioning or paved roads. Life in Upper Sandton Village flows with the desert's rhythms. Summers are hot, but the winters are mild and ideal for exploring local trails or enjoying the Sonoran landscape. You can often spot neighbors gathering for backyard cookouts once the sun dips down. A quirky tidbit: because the community is small and largely residential, kids here often get that classic run free till dinner childhood that's gone missing in busier suburbs. There aren't many major shops or restaurants within the village itself, so folks often pop over to Queen Creek or Florence for dining or goods. Within driving distance, the Santan Mountain Regional Park offers miles of hiking, horseback riding, and unparalleled desert sunsets. If you ask around, you'll probably hear about the area's cowboy heritage and a few local legends tied to lost gold and ghost towns, not unusual in parts of Arizona where the past still seems to whisper through the cacti. What stands out is the enduring sense of place. Upper Sandton Village may be small, but its story is woven deeply into Arizona's history and the ever-evolving landscape of Pinal County. Avondale sits just west of Phoenix and has a past that's as colorful as an Arizona sunset. Its story started in the late 1800s when Billy Moore, a frontier entrepreneur with an eye for opportunity, set up a stage stop, saloon, and general store along the banks of the Agua Fria River. Back then, folks called the area Coldwater, thanks to a spring that kept travelers refreshed on the long routes between Tucson and California. Legend has it that Moore's bootlegging ways led to a memorable spat with a postal inspector, after which the local post office was moved and renamed for Avondale Ranch, giving the city its current name. For years, Avondale was anchored by agriculture, especially cotton and alfalfa farming. Traces of this history still linger, even as the city has boomed into a vibrant suburb since the 1980s. Driving through, you'll find classic Western Avenue, where period architecture and quirky local businesses preserve a bit of that old small-town charm, even as new restaurants and shops move in. Avondale is also known for its love of speed. Just outside town sits Phoenix Raceway, famed among NASCAR fans for hosting major races since the 1960s. The roar of engines is as much a part of local culture as the sizzle of carne asada on backyard grills. Mexican food is a hallmark here, influenced by the area's deep southwestern roots. Summers here can be fiercely hot, with triple-digit temperatures, but locals have plenty of ways to beat the heat, from riverside picnics to lively community events like the annual Billy Moore Days, which brings parades, carnival rides, and a playful nod to the city's bootlegging founder. Among lesser-known facts, Avondale's rapid growth in recent years has transformed it into one of the fastest expanding communities near Phoenix, drawing new families and businesses while striving to preserve that rugged, independent spirit woven through its streets. Tonopah, in Maricopa County, sits quietly on the edge of the Sonoran Desert, about 50 miles west of Phoenix. Its name traces back to a word believed to mean hot water under a bush, an apt choice considering the area's natural springs and geothermal wells, an oddity in a landscape famous for being hot and arid. These springs once drew travelers and settlers, although today Tonopah is more a place of wide open space than bustling crowds. Historically a rural outpost, the early 20th century found Tonopah as a modest farming and ranching community, attracting families who settled the land when water and opportunity were a rare luxury in the Arizona sun. By the 1920s and 30s, the town was shaping up with new schools and small businesses cropping up for local families, a testament to steady but quiet growth. The region remains defined by its sparse population and affordable land, a selling point for those wanting a slice of desert privacy or wishing to set up solar energy installations or even hobby farms. Real estate here is valued for wide plots and distant neighbors. It's one of the last places in the valley where you can look for miles without another roof in sight. The desert climate is extreme. Blistering summers often top 110 degrees, while winters are mild and sunny. The perfect chance for simmering up a roadside chili or enjoying an evening beneath breathtakingly dark, star-studded skies. Summer monsoons can surprise with spectacular lightning and brief, dramatic rainfall. Not far off you'll find attractions like the sprawling Saddle Mountain Wilderness, a favorite for hikers and those keen on spotting wild burrows or unique cactus blooms. And if you listen to locals, they might share stories about the old Saguaro Sanitarium, once a place of healing, later an eccentric desert motel, now half swallowed by sand and time. There's a rumor, too, that Tonopah's geothermal wells once inspired plans for a spa town, a daydream that never quite materialized but still bubbles up now and then. Salome is nestled out in the desert west of Phoenix, and it's a spot with more tall tales than traffic jams. The town's quirky nickname, Where She Danced, comes from its whimsical founder, Dick Wick Hall, who christened it after witnessing Mrs. Grace Salome Pratt hopping about on burning sand. She jumped down from a wagon barefoot back in 1904, and Hall couldn't resist the story. Hall gave Salome national fame with his humorous newspaper columns featuring oddities like the frog that couldn't swim, and for a while, Salome was one of America's best-known little towns. For decades, Salome was a hub for travelers. The main road between Phoenix and Los Angeles ran right through, bringing motels, restaurants, and even a bit of clandestine gambling. At one point, it became a popular wedding destination, thanks to a shorter wait period than neighboring California. But when Interstate 10 opened in the 1970s and bypassed the area, Salome's crowds thinned out dramatically. The local economy has always been about adaptation. Mining first drove growth, then ranching and roadside services took over, and nowadays small businesses and retirees keep things ticking. Every October, Salome Days brings the community together for a reenactment of the original heated sand dance, parades of classic cars, vintage stories, and traditional foods made from mesquite flower and prickly pear. Salome's weather is characteristic Arizona desert, scorching summers, mild winters, and very little rainfall. The historic Salome Community Hall, first built in 1915, remains a gathering spot for dances and holiday celebrations. Sporting a wooden floor and excellent acoustics, it's a testament to the town's knack for making the most of what it's got. Strangely enough, an early local legend boasts of a 7-year-old frog here that never learned to swim because it had never seen water. If you pass through, expect to hear laughter as much as folklore. Right now, it's a bit damp and cool out there, with light rain and overcast skies, but that's not unusual for this part of the desert in the late fall. Baus, nestled in La Paz County, is one of those places where the landscape tells a story of boom and bust, secrecy and survival. It all started as a mining camp in the 1860s, originally called Braden, but renamed Baus after a local postmaster. The town thrived when the railroad arrived, bringing copper and gold miners, and for a time, it had everything from hotels to ice cream parlors. The Swansea mine was its heartbeat until it closed in the 1920s, and the town settled into a quieter rhythm. But Baus's most intriguing chapter began in 1943, when General Patton set up Camp Baus nearby, a top-secret World War II training base for tank crews. The camp was part of the massive Desert Training Center, and its soldiers practiced with a mysterious weapon called the Canal Defense Light, a blinding tank-mounted lamp meant to confuse enemy troops. The camp only lasted about 8 months, but remnants of concrete pads, reservoirs, and unit insignias still dot the desert, quietly marking the spot. Today, Baus is a winter haven for retirees and travelers escaping colder climates, with Highway 72 buzzing between Phoenix and Las Vegas. The local museum, built from an old mining shack, preserves the town's gritty past, and the surrounding area offers ghost towns, desert trails, and a sense of isolation that feels both peaceful and a little eerie. One quirky detail: locals say the old mining shack was once moved to the museum grounds by the Chamber of Commerce, and it's now a time capsule of miner life. Looks like we're passing through one of those nameless stretches, but that just means it's a great moment for Jolly Sr. to share some wisdom. Take it away, Dad.
I'm on it, son. Hello, name's Jolly Sr. Happy to be here with you. You may not realize it, but right now, you're in a very exclusive part of the journey. That's right. Welcome to the VIP section of travel. No lines, no reservations needed, just smooth, effortless movement from one place to the next. Think about it. Every big journey has these hidden moments. The quiet stretches that don't try to impress you but make the whole trip possible. They're like the background musicians in a big concert. Sure, they're not the headliners, but without them the whole thing falls apart. I once heard a saying, the best part of a journey is never in the guidebook. And I'd say that's true. Some of the most underrated travel moments are the ones that don't demand your attention. Just time passing, moving forward exactly as it should. So sit back and enjoy the VIP treatment. No distractions, no decisions, just the luxury of letting the journey do its thing. After all, not everyone gets to experience a moment like this. Though technically they do, but hey, let's not ruin the exclusivity. All right, that wraps up my part for now. Now back to Junior.
Thanks, Dad. Milligan was once a lively railroad siding and mining settlement in the desert sweep of San Bernardino County. Its story really takes off in the early 1900s, when the Parker Branch Rail Spur was cut from Cadiz toward Arizona, giving Milligan a prime spot as a watering and service stop for trains pushing through the arid landscape. Those days saw a steady stream of miners, railway workers, and prospectors. Mining is the thread running through Milligan's past. The nearby Lucky Jim mine loaded out silver copper ore during the 1930s, with shipments making their way all the way to Douglas, Arizona for smelting. Silver ore was even carted to Milligan's railroad siding as early as 1916, supporting a handful of jobs and feeding local industry. The settlement's fortunes, like so many desert towns, rose and fell with the price of precious metals and the railroad's importance. Today, Milligan is deserted, its only markers being the silent foundations of section houses and the cemetery, a poignant reminder of the people who tried to stake their lives here. The cemetery itself, stoic amid the sand and sun, whispers of the hard realities folks faced out in California's borderlands. Weather here is reliably dry with searing summers and mild winters, perfect for the kind of tough existence demanded by mining and railroading. There's little in the way of local cuisine now, but in its heyday, you might have found hearty fare meant to fuel workers for a long shift under the desert sun. A surprising detail: Milligan served as a crucial watering stop for steam locomotives. Without it, trains risked running dry in the hottest stretch between California and Arizona. If you ever find yourself exploring this corner of the desert, nearby vistas like the Old Woman Mountains offer a taste of the wild, lonesome grandeur that defined Milligan's short, fierce prime. "29 Palms," nestled in the Mojave Desert, has always been a place shaped by water, or rather, the lack of it. Long before prospectors and Marines arrived, Native Americans, principally the Serrano, Chemehuevi, and Cahuilla, gathered at the oasis of Mara, a rare spring in a land of little rain. According to local tradition, the community's curious name comes from the original 29 California fan palms planted at the oasis, supposedly one for each Serrano boy born in a single year. a fact still debated by historians, but proudly retold by locals. Gold fever swept in prospectors by the 1870s, with miners camping at the oasis before venturing toward Gold Park and other desert claims. Still, it was after World War I that the town's character changed dramatically. 29 Palms became known as a place for wounded veterans, drawn by its dry, clean air, to rest and homestead in sturdy cabins on government land. That spirit of resilience lingers, visible in local museums and cherished desert art. Today, 29 Palms is best known as a major gateway to Joshua Tree National Park and is home to the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center, the largest marine training base in the world. The park entrance lures hikers, stargazers, and artists with surreal landscapes and iconic Joshua trees, while downtown murals tell the city's wild and quirky frontier history. Temperatures swing dramatically from chilly winter nights to scorched summer days, with dazzling spring wildflower blooms if the rains cooperate. As for food, you'll find classic American diners and a growing cafe scene, with a nod to hearty fare suited to military appetites. A surprising quirk. Rumor has it that a stage stop built by a man named Aldridge in the late 1800s doubled as an Adobe community hub. A reminder of how every oasis and every story mattered out here. Stepping into the heart of Joshua Tree on a crisp noon, with temperatures hovering around 52 degrees Fahrenheit and only a few clouds drifting by, you can truly sense the collision of two wild worlds, the high Mojave and the low Colorado deserts. This area is best known for the eponymous Joshua Tree, a peculiar, spiky yucca that's iconic to the region and pops up in dense groves or as lonesome sentinels across the sand. The landscape is unmistakably striking. Vast plains punctuated by enormous Monzo granite boulders, rugged mountains, and surreal rock formations, some bearing nicknames like Skull Rock. Beyond the scenery, Joshua Tree has a colorful history shaped by Native American tribes, ambitious miners, and early ranchers. Take, for example, the Old Keys Ranch, a historic homestead that tells the stories of desert ingenuity and survival, from gold mining exploits to family life amid the cacti. Today, you'll find the community thriving on ecotourism, art, and music, artists and musicians are drawn to the big skies and quiet inspiration. Contrary to its arid reputation, Joshua Tree isn't just sun-baked rock. Wildlife flourishes here. Desert bighorn sheep, jackrabbits, coyotes, and even kangaroo rats weave through the scrub, while hundreds of bird species pass through on their migratory paths. The area's reputation for stargazing is legendary, owing to its pitch-dark night skies. The Milky Way spills across the heavens with minimal light pollution, making it a paradise for amateur astronomers. Food in the town itself tends toward hearty southwestern fare. Think mesquite grilled vegetables, prickly pear cocktails, and locally made jams. And if you're a climber, Joshua Tree is home to over 8,000 climbing routes, ranging from beginner to expert, making it a world-class destination for vertical adventures. As a quirky detail, some locals lovingly call the town J Tree. If you're seeking nearby experiences, 29 Palms and Keys View offer panoramic vistas, art installations, and cultural stops that round out the area's unique appeal. Getting a little lost here isn't just easy, it's rather magical. Today, Banning greets us with a crisp, clear afternoon, just above freezing, with dry air and a gentle breeze, remarkably cool for Southern California. You'd almost expect Banning to be sweltering, given its pass location, but the climate here is known for sharp seasonal contrasts. Summer days can sizzle into the 90s. Winter sometimes surprises residents with frosty mornings or even a dusting of snow. Banning sits astride the San Gorgonio Pass, wedged between two dramatic mountains. San Gorgonio to the north, San Jacinto to the south. This pass has always been an important gateway, first for native tribes like the Serrano and Cahuilla, then for Spanish expeditions, and later, a vital stagecoach and rail route shuttling prospectors, settlers, and vacationers between the coast and desert. One of the town's earliest and most evocative landmarks was the Gilman Ranch Adobe, a classic stage stop whose grounds saw their share of Wild West drama. The infamous Willie Boy manhunt partly unfolded nearby, inspiring Hollywood's Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here, starring Robert Redford. Remnants of that old frontier can be glimpsed at the Gilman Historic Ranch and Wagon Museum. Banning's heyday mirrored Southern California's own expansion, especially during the early 20th century land booms. The storied San Gorgonio Inn played host to presidents and big city folk seeking respite en route to Palm Springs, before modern highways diverted the crowds and nudged the town into a quieter rhythm. The inn's Spanish architecture and ever-changing fortunes tell a tale of resilience. Its final days even saw it become a gentleman's club before the city bought and ultimately demolished it. For those intrigued by local oddities, the historic Copland House stands out for its rare architectural blend and preserves memories of Banning's eclectic inhabitants. The surrounding real estate today mixes historic charm with modest modern growth, reflective of a town that knows how to keep its stories alive. Highgrove sits in Riverside County, nestled at the edge of the fast-changing Inland Empire. Originally a rural citrus and packing community, Highgrove still carries touches of its agricultural roots, though that's shifting quickly. What once were groves and fields are now prime ground for major new residential developments fueled by the region's booming growth. The town itself is unincorporated, meaning it isn't part of any city, and it maintains an intimate, somewhat independent feel despite its proximity to larger cities like Riverside and San Bernardino. In recent years, Highgrove's landscape has been transforming at a brisk pace. Major projects are adding thousands of new homes, parks, trails, and even affordable housing as demand for living space surges, particularly among families drawn by access to jobs, universities like UC Riverside, and a lower cost of living compared to coastal areas. Locals often tout Highgrove's location. You're just minutes from several major freeways, so it's a breeze to reach downtown Riverside, nearby mountain hiking trails, Temecula wine country, or the high desert to the east. While it doesn't have the bustling downtown or extensive restaurant scene of its big neighbors, you'll find plenty of convenience. Gas stations, shops, and a hookah lounge form an eclectic, quietly energetic strip near the center of the community. The area draws a younger crowd, with a median age in the low 30s and considerable diversity. Safety and walkability stand out. Residents often mention how comfortable they feel biking or running at all hours, helped by friendly neighbors and a visible local sheriff presence. The Mediterranean climate brings hot, dry summers and mild winters, offering ample sunshine for outdoor pursuits nearly year-round. A curious bit of Highgrove trivia: it sits at a natural gateway, with the Santa Ana River nearby and a unique mix of suburban, rural, and rapidly developing zones side by side, lending it a feeling of a place both in transition and holding stubbornly to its small community quirks. Not many people know that Chino, situated in the fertile heart of San Bernardino County, started as an agricultural powerhouse, known for its incredibly rich, deep topsoil, ideal for growing anything from sweet corn to strawberries, peaches, and walnuts. Sugar beets once industrially dominated the landscape, but by the 1950s, Chino transformed into California's dairy capital, with more than 400 dairies redefining the valley's economy and even drawing Dutch dairy farmers to shape local tradition and industry. Chino's rural character has a certain cinematic appeal. The airy landscape often stood in for the American Midwest in old Hollywood productions like 12 O'Clock High. Despite urban growth, the city maintains a surprising amount of green space, offering over 230 acres of parks and a laid-back, community-focused lifestyle. The weather is classic Southern California: warm, dry summers with plenty of golden sunshine and mild, somewhat rainy winters. A highlight for history and aviation buffs is the Planes of Fame Air Museum, located at Chino Airport. Here, you can get up close with vintage aircraft, some of which are still in flying condition, a major draw for enthusiasts from all over the region. The city's history is also anchored by the Grey House, a Victorian stick-style landmark built by founder Richard Gerd, and the Yorba Slaughter Adobe, one of the county's oldest buildings, echoing the area's Rancho-era roots. For a quirky bit of local trivia, Chino's city crest is a cornucopia overflowing with produce, a nod to its agricultural abundance. While it may not have the flash of nearby Los Angeles, Chino is quietly known for its family-friendly events, open-air farmers markets brimming with local foods, and its genuine community spirit, a restful contrast to the sprawl of the surrounding metropolis. Flying near Pico Rivera as midday brings crisp air, 61 degrees Fahrenheit, broken clouds, and a gentle breeze, offers a window into how history and daily life interlace in this southeastern pocket of Los Angeles County. What stands out here is the city's roots deep in California's transformation, dating back before statehood, when much of the land was part of vast ranchos granted during Spanish and Mexican rule. Two towns, Pico and Rivera, grew up side by side in the 1880s, spurred by the arrival of the Union Pacific and Santa Fe railroads. The local earth was so fertile that early fence posts reportedly put down roots and grew into trees. For decades, this area was blanketed with walnut, avocado, and citrus groves, earning it the humorous nickname, the Egypt of the U.S., for its abundance between two rivers. Pico Rivera gets its name from Pio Pico, the last Mexican governor of California, whose former adobe home at El Ranchito still anchors nearby Pio Pico State Historic Park, a restored slice of 19th century life with gardens and living history events. The local museum illuminates these formative decades, preserving stories of railroad booms, farming, and community builders. As post-war growth swept through, farmland gave way to neighborhoods and schools, and by 1958, Pico and Rivera merged to become one city, woven tightly between the Rio Hondo and San Gabriel rivers. Real estate here is a patchwork of modest homes, from ranch-style houses sprung up in the 50s to newer builds lining quiet streets. Local foods reflect both vintage and modern tastes. You'll find taquerias spiced with Mexican heritage and family-run bakeries where conchas and pan dulce grace the counters. For trivia lovers, Pio Pico reportedly lost his ranch in a notorious swindle, a cautionary tale recounted by local historians. Nearby, Whittier and Downey offer their own centuries-old landmarks, making Pico Rivera a place rooted not just in geography but in stories of resilience, reinvention, and sometimes a touch of luck. Los Angeles is enjoying a classic midday, about 59 degrees Fahrenheit, a bit breezy, and those iconic broken clouds drifting overhead. If you're wondering what makes this city pulse, it's a captivating tapestry woven from glitz, ambition, and quirky tales. This city's name traces back to El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de Los Angeles, harking to its Spanish colonial beginnings. It rapidly grew into the cultural heartbeat of the West Coast, thanks largely to the glamour churned out by Hollywood. The legendary Hollywood sign, perched since 1923 on Mount Lee, began as a real estate ad and metamorphosed into a symbol of global star power. Entertainment drives the local economy, from the Dolby Theater, home of the Oscars, to renowned studios like Universal and Warner Brothers. Music also plays its part, with icons such as the Capitol Records building shaping industry history. Real estate is famously competitive and diverse, with sleek modernist gems like the Stahl House showing off mid-century architecture. When it comes to food, Los Angeles never plays it safe. Its famous taco trucks, Koreatown BBQs, and fresh vegan spots reflect the sprawling diversity, not to mention its local creations like French dip sandwiches and the popularity of food trucks over fine dining. On pleasant days like today, Angelenos flock to the Santa Monica Pier, a century-old marvel that offers more than seaside fun. A carousel in the Louvre Hippodrome marks it as a piece of living amusement history. The Griffith Observatory serves sky watchers, while Venice Beach's boardwalk teems with artists and oddities. A lesser-known quirk, hidden below Grand Park's symbolic splash fountain, you'll find drought-resistant flora, a tribute to Law's constant quest for balance between beauty and sustainability. And if you catch a whiff of the Pacific, know that legends claim a secret web of tunnels under old downtown, woven by tales of Prohibition's secret nightlife, though hard evidence is elusive. Looking down through those broken midday clouds over Los Angeles, you'll see a city energized by a mild breeze and a rich, complex economy that truly shapes the feel of every neighborhood. The weather's settled in at a cool 59 degrees, typical for late fall, yet this city never really slows down. Los Angeles is famous for being the entertainment capital of the world. This is where movies, streaming shows, music, and digital content are made, feeding a global audience and keeping hundreds of thousands employed, from Hollywood producers to set builders. Tech isn't far behind. The area known as Silicon Beach, think Santa Monica, Venice, Playa Vista, buzzes with startups and big names in everything from biotech and clean tech to artificial intelligence and e-commerce. Aerospace and manufacturing are also long-standing pillars. The legacy of aviation and defense research continues with companies developing space technologies and next-gen aircraft, something you might sense every time a jet glides out over the coast. Tourism and hospitality are woven into the fabric of daily life too, supported by millions of visitors and a wide array of restaurants, hotels, and venues. When it comes to homes, Los Angeles gives you almost every style imaginable. Classic Spanish-style bungalows, sleek mid-century moderns, Victorian houses tucked in historic neighborhoods, and airy new apartment towers. It's truly a patchwork. Prices for both buying and renting tend to be high. LA's reputation for unaffordability is well earned, with the cost of living among the highest in the nation. The closer you get to beach communities or more established neighborhoods, the steeper it gets, while outlying areas sometimes offer a little relief. The city is always evolving. New high-rise complexes are reshaping downtown. Revitalization projects are adding energy to places like the Arts District, and infrastructure investments are ramping up as LA prepares for the 2028 Olympics. Each neighborhood has its quirks: mature palm trees, mural-covered walls, and a blend of old and new architecture, giving every block its own character, no matter which way the wind blows through the city.